Well, hello there, good people. Hi, it's Jason here with Green Country Agroforestry. We're looking at the Hall's Beauty thornless blackberry. Look at the size of those berries. They're not ripe yet, obviously. They're coming on. Oh, there's more down here. Just a lot of berries. The flowers are gone now, but we have the berries forming. I didn't realize they were going to get so huge. But they're not ready yet, so we're going to give them a little bit of time and go harvest something else today. This right here is what we're picking today. It's called Elaeagnus multiflora, or gooby. It's a berry, obviously. Bright red berries are sweet and tart, kind of like cherry in flavor, but not in texture. They're a little bit more jelly-like in consistency on the inside, with one singular large elongated pit, which is also edible, but kind of woody, so we typically don't eat that. But right now, here in the middle of May, these berries are all ripe and ready to pick. We're going to go ahead and put them in this little candy dispenser and then turn them into something that's a bit like candy. Stay tuned. Let's have a close-up look at this berry here. As you can see, it's bright red. The size is about the size of the tip of my little finger, and it's covered with these little tiny silver speckles. The flowers also that this berry comes from are speckled with little tiny silver speckles, which makes them rather unique early in the springtime. There we go. And you can see the seed just poking out right there. Very, very juicy. This makes a good wine, by the way. And whenever these berries are starting to become ripe, they'll begin to fall from the tree, just like that, and fall on the ground. So whenever you see them starting to fall, that's about the time that you begin picking them. They should come free very, very easily. You shouldn't have to jerk them off of the tree. And of course, right now is a great time to eat these fresh out of hand. When they're a little bit underripe, the skin can be slightly astringent. Not too astringent to make it like, you know, pucker your mouth astringent, but that's really noticeable. But once they've gotten to this point where they're falling from the tree, you barely even notice the astringency at all. Because it's overpowered by the sweetness. All right, next we're going to rinse these off. There's a lot of dust in the air. I dropped a couple on the ground. I just want to make sure that we get all of that off before we start making these into a food item. Look at how many we got here. I had to get a bigger container to keep them all. Now after washing, we are left with 8 pounds of fruit. And the next step is going to be removing the stems. And that's just going to take a minute or two here. This is an opportunity also for me to look for indications of mold or other unsuitable fruit. So if I see any fruit that's got mold on it while I'm removing the stems, I'll go ahead and remove that. We're going to start on a low speed setting for the immersion blender. We're going to go ahead and go to speed number 2. Alright, this particular bit of gardening know-how was passed along to me by Sean at Edible Acres. He got it from Akiva Silver at Twisted Tree Farm. So that's some sand from our front yard. Our seeds. We want it to be just moist, not wet. Just moist, not wet. So that should be plenty. That should be plenty. I'm going to mix our seeds up with the sand. Sand and seeds, seeds and sand. Oh yeah, there's more than sand. Matter of fact, we'll probably want to drain some of that excess moisture out of there before we pack them away in the bottom of the fridge to wait until springtime. See, look at that. We're going to put these in the fridge, and a couple of weeks before spring arrives, we'll start planting them in pots and see if we can get a few to start. Alright, now once you've used the immersion blender and gotten this smoothed down to this nice consistency, you can add a little bit of sugar if you like. Some recipes call for extra citric acid for bite. The Goumi fruit does not require extra citric acid for bite. It's plenty tart to begin with. I did throw in off camera about 3 tablespoons of extra sugar because I like a little bit of extra sweet, but it is already plenty sweet. Taste some for yourself before you decide whether you want to add any sugar or not. I just added a little bit so it tastes more like candy. Okay, so at this point what you'd want to do is go ahead and take this and put it on your silicone sheets for drying, although it's a little bit on the wet side because I added a lot more of the juice in. I didn't want to lose the nutrients. So, pardon me. So the question becomes, if you don't want to make fruit leather, you want to make the fruit chews, and you've got very thin material, what you're going to do is, drop your spoon, obviously. It's the first thing you need to do is drop your spoon. Alright, so now we got a mold, and we're just going to, spoon this into the mold. Don't worry about overfilling. We're going to fix that in a minute. Just fill it up. Alright. As you can tell, there is far too much juice in this still for it to go onto the silicone sheets. It would just flow right through. So we're going to put it into this silicone mold. And then we're going to freeze it. What's up, Bill? Between 6 and 8 hours is all it takes to turn that little bit of fruit pulp into fruit leather. Into fruit leather. Now, so there we go. Isn't that delicious looking? Well, I'll tell you what. You can have a lot of fun with this stuff. But, you know, usually whenever I eat it, I kind of wad it up into a ball and eat that. So I thought, why don't I make my fruit chews in the ball already? I'm not going to be rolling it out and tearing it up and okay, maybe a little bit. Pardon me. This is kind of fun. Now, same amount of time is just enough time to transform all of these little cells filled with fruit pulp into little stickless popsicles, which we just pop, as you can see, right out onto the silicone liner. Now, all of these delightful little buttons can be arranged on our liner, like so. Quickly, because we don't want them to thaw out until we've got them started. Now I'll just take our frozen berry bites. Make sure there's a little bit of a gap in between here. Good airflow. And we're going to use the same exact setting that we would use for the fruit leather, only as these are a little bit thicker. We are going to take a little bit more time, so we're going to take this up to about 12 hours, I think. But we're going to check up on them here about halfway through, if I remember to. There we go. We are running. Nice. Okie dokie. Now, after about another 8 hours, we've got these. Now, they're an awful lot like fruit leather, except each individual disc can be enjoyed separately. That's the equivalent of about maybe 5 or 6 berries right there. So you see, we separate these out into little individual bite-sized pieces instead of an entire roll of fruit leather. I mean, fruit leather's fun, but it's sticky, tacky. Usually there's more of it than you want to eat at one given time. 2 or 3 of these little fruit chews is all you need for a little vitamin and mineral boost, antioxidants and all that good stuff. They're really not all that high in calories. I think the entire harvest, after we've finished dehydrating and processing them, even with the extra sugar, only amounts to about 2,000 calories. But I'll tell you what, they are 2,000 very, very tasty and very, very vitamin-packed calories. So here we are, just separating these little tiny discs out. I'm going to separate them, and we're going to put them in a jar for safekeeping. But I'm going to do one more thing, just to kind of give them a little extra flavor enhancement before we're all done. Let me see here. Okay, so here we go. We're going to put them into the jar. A whole bunch of them into the jar. Alright, and also into the jar, I'm going to put a little bit of sugar that I've ground up into a powder. Go for broke. There we go. Now we're going to toss those around a little bit so they'll be lightly sugar coated. Let me put the rest of these in. And we are chicken. Might have made up too much. I might have made up a little bit too much powdered sugar. That's okay. So we're just going to get the outer edges of all of these little discs to be lightly coated. And if we did our job right, I'm going to open this up. Sugar dust will come flying out. But each and every one of our little discs is now coated on its outside with a thin layer of sugar. So you have an initial sweet on the tongue, and then you can just let it dissolve, releasing all that yummy goodness, and vitamins and minerals, and antioxidants. And it really does taste like candy. Guys, I hope you found today's video informative or entertaining. If you did, you know what to do. I'll catch you next time. Till then, get out there and get growing. Okay, I'm going to have to put these out of reach, or I'm going to eat them all.